Welcome back to the What's Next series. This is where I discuss what's next for some of your favorite NBA teams. Today we're going to be talking about the Miami Heat. I got my D-Wade shirt on, one of my favorite players ever. But the Miami Heat went all in this offseason, and they're looking to get back to the finals where they were just there a year ago in the bubble. And they're trying to make it back, with this upcoming season. Very disappointing ending to their season in 2021, getting swept out of the first round by the eventual NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks. But now Miami, they went all in. They made some moves that I think could, make it interesting in the Eastern Conference, and they could potentially make another deep playoff run if, everything goes their way. And I'm excited about the moves that they made, and I'm here to talk about that and, what the future holds for this team. So be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. This is a place where we talk about NBA basketball, so if you love hoops, this is the place for you. And as we know, the Miami Heat in the bubble, they made the great run to the NBA Finals, where they eventually did lose to the LA Lakers, but it was a good sign for this team. They had some young pieces. Jimmy Butler was, cementing himself as a star caliber player in this league. Bam Adebayo took a big step forward. Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and guys like that were playing, great in that postseason run. But last season, it was a little up and down for this team, and it was really up and down all year long. They dealt with some injuries to Jimmy Butler early on. I think Bam missed some time with injuries. Tyler Hero took a step back from his rookie season. Even Duncan Robinson had kind of a down year shooting the ball for his standards. And they struggled. They ended up being the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. And they got swept in the first round, and it wasn't pretty at all. I mean, outside of game 1 against the Bucks, which went to overtime, it was not a competitive series at all. So obviously changes were imminent for this Miami Heat team coming forward. There were talks early in the season when James Harden was made available from Houston that he could be the potential suitor there to, help maybe push this Miami Heat team, to being a real championship caliber team. But those trade talks fell through, and James Harden ended up in Brooklyn, obviously. And Miami just stood put with what they had, and they made some minor moves here and there, but the team just didn't gel last season as it did the year before. Maybe that is due to the bubble. I mean, that's what the joke is, the bubble boys. That's what the Miami Heat slander comes from. But it's tough to really gauge if the bubble had that much of an impact. But they did struggle last season, and they struggled in the playoffs as well. So they went out this offseason, and they made some big moves. And I think these moves that they made were they're going to be very intriguing to see how they play out on the court and if they make that much of a difference in the Eastern Conference playoff race. But I think it could make things, very interesting. I think Miami can get back to being one of those top tier teams in the Eastern Conference. And we're going to get to the big move that they made. But I think first things first, they brought back Duncan Robinson, and they gave him 5 years, $90 million. I think is well deserved. One of the best catch and shoot players in the league. He does his job, since exceptionally well. I mean, he is lights out from downtown. Every time he shoots the ball, I think it's going in. That's just how great of a shooter he is. Everybody knows about his story, how he was like D3 and then, made it to Michigan, undrafted. And now he just got the most money ever by an undrafted player. Congrats to him, and shout out to the Heat for taking care of their guy. And then the Miami Heat went and got Kyle Lowry. They went and got Kyle Lowry, and I think this was I want to say like an attitude changing move, because I think Kyle Lowry is as Miami Heat as it can get. Like outside of like Jimmy Butler and like D-Wade and stuff, I think he's as Miami Heat as it gets, because he is just a tough, gritty point guard. And Kyle Lowry's been doubted his entire career. He was traded a lot early on in his career. And in Toronto, he was never seen as somebody that would be able to win a championship there. And he was a big piece to them eventually raising the Larry O'Brien trophy. And I think this move is, like I said, it's a mentality changing move. It's getting back to that Heat culture, bringing some toughness in, an obvious upgrade from the point guards that you had last season, and somebody that has a championship pedigree. He has championship experience. He's been in a lot of deep playoff runs. He's been in a lot of series against some of the best in the league, like LeBron James. He went up against the Warriors. Kyle Lowry has the experience. He has the toughness, and he can still play. He can still play, I think, all-star level basketball. And I'm excited to see how this, just how like he is accepted by this Miami Heat team, because I think he's going to fit in just, like he's been there for the last 5 years. I think this was a great move for Kyle Lowry to make. I think it was a great move for the Miami Heat to make. They did have to give up some pieces. They gave up Goran Dragic, who was a key piece to them making the finals, but they didn't want to really pay him the money that he was making, and they also gave up Precious Achiuwa, a young a young big man who showed a lot of promise, and I think that's a tough loss. But at the same time, you already have a solidified all-star big in Bam Adebayo, so I don't really think that loss it's not going to be too demeaning to this team. But, for the Raptors, I think that's good that they got some pieces back for Kyle Lowry since they didn't trade him at the deadline. But for the Miami Heat, great move here. I love the Kyle Lowry addition. I think it's going to pan out big time in the long run. And another move that was big, they lost Trevor Ariza, but they brought in PJ Tucker. And I think this was a great move. We seen what PJ Tucker did with the Milwaukee Bucks. He helped change that team's mentality along with Drew Holiday, bringing those guys in, giving them just a, more of a, toughness to that team. And that's what PJ Tucker is. He's just like Kyle Lowry, a tough, gritty player. PJ Tucker does all the dirty work. Like, there were games in the finals where PJ Tucker only took one shot. He would shoot 0 for 1, but he was in D-Book's, pockets the whole game. Even if D-Book was going off, PJ Tucker was still there. He was guarding the Chris Pauls. He was doing everything on the defensive side for the Milwaukee Bucks, as far as on-ball defense goes, taking a task. He was guarding Kevin Durant. You're not stopping KD, but you can make it as difficult as possible and wear him down as much as you can. That's the kind of guy PJ Tucker is, and he's going to take a lot of the defensive responsibilities off of, Jimmy Butler. He's going to help out Bam Adebayo. He's just going to bring a lot to this team, and I like how they surrounded, because Duncan Robinson's obviously not the best defender, but they surrounded him with, I think, elite defenders at each position. I love what they did. They also brought back Victor Oladipo on basically a low-risk, high-reward deal. I mean, it's a 1-year deal. If he comes back from his injury and he is somewhat what you traded for, like, you didn't give up a lot to get him, but if he is somewhat Victor Oladipo, that's another big addition to this team. That's another X factor to this team. Guys, like, they did lose Kendrick Nunn, but I don't really think that's, too much of an issue, because I think a guy like Tyler Hero is really going to take off this year. I really think Tyler Hero is going to take off this year. I think he took a step back in year number 2, which we've seen that happen before with guys that get a lot of hype as a rookie. They tend to take steps back in year 2 because there's a lot of pressure on them. And these guys are like 19, 20, 21 years old. These are young players. We've seen it with Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum, I was just talking to my friends about this last night. Jason Tatum had a big rookie year. He made it to the conference finals. He dunked on LeBron James. He was the leading scorer of that Celtics playoff team. And then year 2, everybody was talking like, oh yeah, he's gonna be an all-star this year. He's gonna be an all-star in year 2, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen that way. It did not happen that way. And I think the same thing can be said for Tyler Hero. And he's gonna have a solidified role in this team. It's gonna be come off the bench, command the second unit, and get buckets for us. Like, that's gonna be his role. And I think he'll be able to thrive in that role. And he's withstood the year 2 adversity of him not living up to expectations, but I think heading into year number 3, he's going to take a big step forward. And he's going to need to take a big step forward, too, because the Heat did lose some depth with, getting Kyle Lowry. They did lose some depth with that move. They were unable to retain Kendrick Nunn, who was a piece off of that bench. But I think with the moves that they made, it makes the East a little more intriguing. I don't think it's a runaway situation with any of the top teams. Obviously, you still got to deal with the Brooklyn Nets, and I'm just looking to see if I missed any moves, because there was a lot of moves. There was a lot of moves in the offseason. They brought back Dwayne Dedmon. He was playing very good for them as a backup big, and I think he can be a very good backup big for this team in the future. Markeith Morris, another just tough, gritty dude. You guys know how the Morris brothers are. They are, 2 of the toughest guys in the league. They don't back down from anything. And I just think that's another good move. He played really well for the Lakers. He won a championship with the Lakers. I like that addition too. And I just think the Heat, they're getting back to their roots, man. The Heat culture, the Heat mentality, tough, gritty guys. It's going to be a fun Eastern Conference race, especially with the top teams. Obviously Brooklyn. We'll talk about them soon too. The Milwaukee Bucks, they revamped. They made some moves, even though they lost some guys. They did make some moves, which I really did like as well. And, we'll see what Philly does if Ben Simmons is on the team by the start of the season. He still is not returning calls from them. So the East is going to be fun. And we still got Atlanta, who made the conference finals. I expect the Celtics to be a little better next season. The Knicks got better, in my opinion. And I'm probably missing some. The Bulls should be good next year. Like, there's a lot of teams that should be very good next season. And I'm glad to see that the Miami Heat made the moves to get better, to, push towards the top of the conference. And we'll see if they can, get back to what they were in the bubble, and that was the NBA Finals team. And we'll see, what happens with this team. But I love the moves. Kyle Lowry coming to the table, getting back Duncan Robinson, PJ Tucker, Markeith Morris, Dwayne Dedmon back. The Heat did their thing. We'll see how it pans out on the court. But this is the What's Next series featuring the Miami Heat. And I'll be back with one of y'all's favorite teams next time, y'all. Peace.